In quiet neighborhoods, power goes wrong.
The officer looked at the map on his tablet. Then at the HOA president. Then back at me. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "this parcel isn't under your HOA." She scoffed. "He's lying." I smiled. "Officer," I said calmly, "I'm not lying. And in about 5 minutes, she's going to realize she just called the police on her new landlord." Silence spread across the parking lot like spilled oil. I bought the building quietly. No banners. No welcome emails. No HOA meeting introductions. Just contracts, escrow, and a set of keys. It sat at the edge of an HOA-controlled community, close enough to confuse people who never bothered to read a map. For years, the HOA acted like it controlled everything nearby. They never did. I wasn't moving in. I was inspecting. New ownership always starts with a walkthrough: doors, parking, utilities. I parked where the deed said I could. That's when Karen appeared. "You need an HOA permit to park here," she snapped. I looked up. "I'm not in your HOA." She laughed. "Everyone here is." "No," I said evenly. "This property isn't." Karen didn't ask for proof. She didn't check records. She relied on what she'd relied on for years. Authority by repetition. "You're refusing to comply," she said loudly. I nodded. "I'm refusing to pretend." She lifted her phone. "I'm calling the cops." "For what?" I asked. "Trespassing. Disorderly conduct." I stepped aside. "Please do." She paced. Spoke fast. "He says he's not in our HOA. He's blocking access. He's argumentative." I stayed quiet. Because the truth doesn't need volume. 2 patrol cars rolled in. Lights off. Professional. Calm. The officers separated us and asked for documents. Karen talked. I handed them a folder. One officer zoomed in on the parcel lines. Paused. Zoomed again. Then looked at Karen. "Ma'am, this building is not within HOA jurisdiction." She laughed nervously. "That's impossible. We've enforced rules there for years," she insisted. The officer nodded. "Enforcing doesn't equal owning." Her smile faded. I spoke gently. "There's something else." Karen rolled her eyes. "What now?" "I'm not just not in your HOA," I said. "I own this building." She froze. "And starting this month," I added, "I'm your landlord." The air left her lungs. "This is a civil matter," one officer said. Then, quieter. "And you misused emergency services." Karen's phone lowered slowly. Neighbors had gathered. Whispers spread. The HOA president just lost control publicly. I showed the officers the deed. Recorded. Stamped. Undeniable. They nodded. Handed the papers back. "Ma'am," the officer said, "false reports carry consequences." Karen didn't respond. That night, the HOA called an emergency meeting. I attended. Sat quietly. Watched panic ripple across the room. Their attorney spoke carefully. Boundary maps. Ownership history. Jurisdiction limits. Every sentence erased Karen's authority. Karen blamed the city. The developer. Everyone but herself. The room wasn't buying it. Someone asked, "So, who's our landlord now?" All eyes turned to me. "I'm not here to control anyone," I said. "I'm here to manage property responsibly." The contrast was obvious. Karen was fined for the false police call. Removed from leadership. Her authority ended the moment facts arrived. She avoided me afterward. Avoided eye contact. Avoided accountability. I sent formal notices. Clear language. Professional tone. No intimidation. No confusion. The HOA changed overnight. Rules became questions. Assumptions became research. Funny what happens when power meets paperwork. Weeks later, I parked in the same spot. No one stopped me. No one called anyone. Authority isn't loud. Ownership isn't assumed. And calling the cops doesn't make you right. They called the police to enforce rules they never had. They learned the difference between control and ownership. And paperwork won quietly, permanently. 2 weeks later, the HOA sent a letter. Not to threaten. Not to demand. To ask. They wanted clarification on parking rights, maintenance boundaries, and most importantly, rent structures. For the first time, they weren't talking down. They were talking carefully. See, what Karen never told them was this. The HOA didn't just use my property. They relied on it. Their guest parking? My land. Their maintenance access road? Also mine. Their storm drainage path? Mine too. They had been operating on borrowed ground for years. The board finally understood something terrifying. If I wanted to be difficult, I could legally shut down half their operations. But I wasn't there for revenge. I was there for order. I scheduled a formal sit-down. Neutral room. Recorded minutes. Their lawyer present. Karen wasn't invited. I don't want conflict, I said. I want clarity. They nodded faster than expected. Power changes behavior. They admitted they'd been ticketing residents on land they didn't own. Illegally. Refunds would be required. Faces went pale. By morning, residents were furious. Fines reversed. Tows cancelled. Years of authority undone overnight. Karen's name came up again. And again. And again. One former board member spoke up. She did this a lot, he said. Calling police. Threatening tenants. Guessing instead of checking. Silence followed. They voted. Unanimously. Karen was permanently barred from HOA leadership. She emailed me. Not an apology. A warning. You're abusing power. I smiled. Because power doesn't require lies. I replied once. Everything I've done is documented. Everything you did is recorded. No response after that. Turns out Karen's police calls weren't isolated. The city flagged her number. Multiple false reports. Multiple complaints. They weren't amused. She was fined again. This time, heavily. Misuse of emergency services carries weight when patterns emerge. People waved now. Asked questions. Read signs before complaining. Fear dissolved into normalcy. Ownership isn't loud. It doesn't yell. It just exists, documented and undeniable. I never introduced myself as the owner. I didn't need to. Truth always arrives late but stays forever. 3 months later, her house went up for sale. No farewell message. No goodbye post. Just gone. The same HOA rules she enforced without authority? She violated them on the way out. No fines. No threats. Just peace. It's not about HOA drama. It's about unchecked confidence meeting facts. About how people mistake volume for power. And forget to check who owns the ground they stand on. Same spot. Same driveway. Sunset behind the building. No sirens. No shouting. Just quiet ownership. They called 911 to prove control. They learned paperwork outranks ego. And the loudest voice in the room usually owns the least.